Hello, good afternoon. This is Abigail Molina with Molina Law Group. I'm here today to talk to you about updates in immigration reform. So hopefully you are interested and wanting to know more about what's going on in that area. If so, I hope you'll stick with us for a few minutes so I can talk to you about the latest. Soy la abogada Abigail Molina con Molina Law Group, soy abogada de inmigración y estoy aquí hoy para platicar sobre las nuevas noticias de la reforma inmigratoria. Espero que esté escuchando las noticias sobre la reforma inmigratoria para que sepa lo que está pasando y que esté interesado en eso. Entonces voy a estar aquí unos momentitos para explicar los nuevos, la última sobre la reforma inmigratoria. So I'm talking today about the latest in immigration reform news. If you've been watching or following along at all, or if you're not living under a rock, you know that President Biden has been our president now for a little over a month. And on the very first day that he took office, he presented new legislation, a proposed new legislation that would completely overhaul our immigration system and grant legal status to over 11 million people. That's a lot of people, in case you weren't aware. So as we've been following the progress of that, we know that a president can't just make law. Of course, a president can do what's called an executive order, but that can be difficult and problematic in the future, as we've seen with certain things that happen by executive order. For example, DACA, that then got tied up in legislation and was potentially taken away. And so we know that that legislation is the way to go for something so big as something like immigration reform. We want something that's an actual law. So the way that laws become laws, I was remembering back to when I started law school. I knew nothing about how laws become laws. I didn't really pay attention in school with civics and whatnot, but I did do something very important to prepare for law school. And that was I watched Legally Blonde 1 and 2, and there may have even been a 3. I can't remember exactly. And I remember from that movie learning how in Legally Blonde 2, if you remember, Reese Witherspoon, she goes to law school at Harvard. She graduates top of her class. And in Legally Blonde 2, she ends up going to Washington and she presents a bill, Bruiser's bill, I think it was called. I can't remember what it was about, but I do remember that she took her little paper up to a box in the House of Representatives, and she put her idea, her bill into that box. And that's what usually starts the process of a law becoming a law. So in this case, with the immigration reform, it's called the US Citizenship Act of 2021. It was presented first by Biden, but he can't just make a new law. It has to go through Congress, and Congress is made up of 2 parts, the House of Representatives and the Senate. So the next step that had to take place after he proposed the legislation was for this legislation to be brought up into Congress. And so actually that happened last week, February 18th, 2021. Both the House of Representatives and the Senate introduced it into those 2 locations. And that is great news, because that means that this legislation is moving forward, that it didn't just die with President Biden's idea, but is actually has now been presented into Congress, and that's the next step for it to become a law. I'm going to explain all of that in Spanish and then come back around and talk to you about what the next step is now that it's been presented in Congress. Entonces, estamos platicando hoy sobre la reforma inmigratoria. Sabemos que el presidente Biden tiene un poco más de un mes de estar nuestro presidente, y recordamos que el primer día de su presidencia, él presentó nueva legislación para hacer la reforma inmigratoria. Y sabemos que un presidente no puede hacer leyes, así no funciona aquí en nuestro país. Se puede presentar órdenes ejecutivas, pero estos son sujetos a cambios y no son muy estables, como hemos visto en el ejemplo de DACA. Hemos visto que ha habido muchos ataques en las cortes, y por eso queremos, para la reforma inmigratoria, queremos una ley, queremos algo presentado, pasado por el Congreso, que no se va a poder cambiar tan fácil como un orden ejecutivo. Entonces, el presidente Biden presentó su primer día un idea para nueva ley de inmigración para hacer muchas reformas, pero eso fue solamente el primer etapa. Entonces, el segundo etapa para hacer la ley en nuestro país es de que legislación se tiene que presentar una idea, se llama un bill, se tiene que presentar en el Congreso, y el Congreso está hecho de dos partes, la Casa de Representantes y el Senado. Entonces, la semana pasada, el 18 de febrero de 2021, esta legislación que se llama el Acta Legislación de Ciudadanía de 2021 fue presentado en las dos cámaras, en la Casa y también el Senado. Y esto es muy buenas noticias porque quiere decir que ya está avanzando la reforma inmigratoria, no está solamente presentado una idea por el presidente, pero quiere decir que hay mucho apoyo en el Congreso para la reforma inmigratoria. Entonces, esto es el segundo paso para poder tener reforma inmigratoria. Entonces, vamos a estar siguiendo esto y voy a estar explicando cuáles son los próximos pasos. So as I announced earlier, February 18th, 2021, the US Citizenship Act for 2021 was presented into Congress, both in the Senate and the House. So that's the next step that needs to happen in this process for an idea, a legislation to become law. It started out with Biden's idea, but it has to go through the Congress in order to become law. And so if you remember anything from high school or any civics classes that you've taken, the next thing that needs to happen is it's going to go into committee. And that's where small groups of people within Congress talk about the bill, debate the pros and the cons, talk about what should be added, what should be taken out. And that goes through quite a bit of discussion in those committees. And so that's the next step that will happen before it actually gets presented for formal debate and a vote on that law. We don't know exactly how long that will happen, but we do expect it to take a while, and we will be monitoring those developments and bringing that information to you so that you can know what is happening. Entonces, los próximos pasos son de que ya ahora que está en el Congreso presentado como una nueva ley, van a dividir en comités y empezar a platicar sobre la legislación y sobre ideas que se debe de agregar o quitar, cambios que se necesita hacer, va a ser debates entre todos y luego a fin de todo un voto para hacer una decisión final para la ley de reforma inmigratoria. Entonces tenemos muchas esperanzas y vamos a estar siguiendo el movimiento de esa nueva legislación y presentando esas noticias aquí con ustedes para que todos puedan saber qué está pasando. So we are very hopeful that this will move along quickly. When I say quickly, I think probably sometime this year. We know that the wheels of government do move slowly, so please don't expect something overnight or even next month. But it does give some time to start preparing. As I said earlier, this would impact 11 million people. So just some highlights from what's presented so far. And please be aware that we don't know what the final version will be and who exactly will be able to benefit. But it looks like it would benefit anyone who's been here before January 1st, 2021. It would give a temporary legal status for people who fit the requirements. And that status would be valid for 5 years. And then after 5 years, if everything has gone well, those individuals would be eligible to apply for permanent residency. There's also provision for anyone with DACA or TPS or certain agricultural workers to skip that 5-year wait period and go directly to permanent residency. So again, I've said this before about DACA. If you've been waiting or holding off on DACA, now's the time to jump right in for DACA. It is fully available. It's back to normal operating and requirements and whatnot. We're filing for it now. So if you have DACA and if immigration reform passes, you will be able to quickly get to permanent residency status much faster than other people. The proposed legislation also deals with things like backlogs of visa wait times for visas, people that have been waiting 15, 20 years will have opportunity to move much quicker through the system. It also deals with questions about the 3-year and the 10-year bar. So if you've ever been told that you need a carta de perdón to get rid of those 3 and 10-year bars, or maybe you've been told that you have the permanent bar, those are all going to be eliminated under the new legislation. So it's great news for anyone who has just been unable to process their resident status because of certain things that have happened in the past, or maybe they left to go back home, and that triggered then these permanent bars. And so it'll make it much easier for people to process their permanent resident status. We're very excited that the permanent bar is addressed in the legislation that was presented to Congress last week. So, Marisela, hola, hola. Gracias por escuchar, gracias por estar con nosotros. Estamos hablando sobre la reforma inmigratoria que fue presentado en el Congreso la semana pasada, el 18 de febrero de 2021. Estamos platicando de la legislación de ciudadanía de 2021. Entonces va procesando, va progresando, y desde ahorita vamos a estar esperando buenas noticias pronto. Cuando digo pronto, sabemos que el gobierno mueva muy despacio, pero esperamos que a lo mejor antes de terminar este año vamos a ver una reforma inmigratoria, y basado en lo que fue presentado, va a afectar, va a ayudar a muchísimas personas. Están diciendo 11 millones de personas que ahorita están indocumentadas van a poder calificar para un estatus legal, un permiso de trabajo similar tal vez a lo que está el DACA. Y después de 5 años en el estatus legal va a poder calificar para la residencia permanente. Las personas que ahorita tienen DACA o TPS, o ciertas personas, trabajadores en el campo, van a poder calificar para brincar los 5 años y solicitar directamente su residencia. Entonces, como he estado diciendo, sigo diciendo, las personas, si califica para DACA, no sé por qué sigue esperando. El programa ya está vivo, está ya listo para recibir las solicitudes. Estamos solicitando DACA, están recibiendo nuevas solicitudes, ya recibimos recibos para nuevas solicitudes. Entonces, las personas que tienen DACA van a poder brincar estos 5 años y solicitar su residencia de una vez. También la legislación platica sobre las barras de 3 y 10 años y barra permanente. Entonces, si le han dicho que tienen una barra y ocupan un perdón, o no existe un perdón y tiene que regresar a su país y esperar 10 años, va a poder arreglar sin tener que buscar esos perdones, sin tener los problemas que ahorita estamos enfrentando, si todo sale igual como está presentando ahorita. Entonces, todavía no sabemos quién va a poder aprovechar, qué exactamente va a tener en la forma final de la legislación, pero vamos a estar revisando bien, y sabemos que muchas personas van a poder calificar y aprovechar. Entonces, pero vamos a ver cómo va. Hi, Edith. Hola, Edith. ¿Cómo está? Gracias por estar con nosotros. If anyone has any questions, I'm going to be on here just a few more minutes. I wanted to come on here and give an update about what's happening with the US Citizenship Act of 2021. It was presented originally by President Biden on his inauguration day, January 20th. Already, we're just about a little over a month into his presidency, and we've already seen now that this legislation has been presented in both the House and the Senate. It's got support in both, and so we expect it now to go to committees and begin to be debated, and we're going to see some changes. That's to be expected. I don't expect that we'll see, everything that's been asked for. It's a negotiation process. So, they shot for the moon. They asked for a lot of great stuff. a lot of things that I'm not even able to cover today, but we're excited to see what the final version will be. And for now, what we're asking people to do is to start getting ready. Start making sure that you have documents in order to show who you are. Like maybe you need to get your passport or get your ID. Maybe you have some criminal history that you need to know that was finished. So we have some people calling us and saying, hey, I think I maybe have, an outstanding case here or there. Can you call to check on it and maybe help me get that resolved? We would love to help with that. And we've been doing that for some of our new clients that are contacting us who are wanting to know what they can do to be ready for immigration reform once it comes through. Ordering records to see what happened when they were stopped at the border or any other contact with ICE. That's important to have. And some of those records requests can take time. So we're encouraging people to reach out. We here at our office, we're starting to expand. We've just hired 2 new assistants in the last 2 weeks. So we are preparing to be able to take care of our community and those who need our help for immigration reform. So we encourage you to reach out. We're starting a database of email addresses so we can stay in touch with people and give them the latest updates. We now have a page on our website. I'll put a link to that in the comments below after I end this video for anyone to know the latest on the immigration reform legislation that we're waiting on, and to put your email address in there so that we can send you. We promise not to spam you, but we want to just be able to get accurate information out there. We know that it's confusing stuff, and there's, unfortunately, always going to be people that are trying to take advantage. So we want to make sure that the accurate information is getting out into the community. Claudia, thank you for your comment. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to help our community in this way. So excited, especially after the last 4 years of just difficulty after difficulty with in immigration law. It's nice to be able to bring good news and exciting news. So we are excited and happy to help. Entonces, vamos a estar presentando información. Si tiene preguntas, se puede comunicarse con nosotros. Hemos estado recibiendo muchas llamadas, muchas preguntas de personas que quieren estar preparados, y estamos animando a la gente que se prepare empezar a juntar información y evidencia. Tal vez si tiene antecedentes penales, podemos ayudarle a buscar y tener un estudio sobre su historia con inmigración para estar listos al momento de que inmigración reforma empieza a hacer algo real. Estamos ya empezando a buscar nuevas personas para nuestro equipaje. Justo esta semana y la semana que entra tenemos 2 nuevas personas que están viniendo para trabajar con nosotros. Entonces estamos preparando porque sabemos que vamos a necesitar poder ayudar muchísimas personas y queremos estar listos para ayudar a los que se puedan aprovechar de la reforma inmigratoria. Entonces ha sido un placer y un gusto poder expresar y anunciar esas nuevas noticias después de 4 años de tiempos muy difíciles bajo el presidente Trump. Entonces estamos muy contentos con los cambios que el presidente Biden está haciendo y va a estar haciendo, y esperamos buenas noticias de el Congreso sobre esa nueva legislación. Entonces, animamos a todos, si quieren información, puede visitar nuestra página de red. Vamos a tener una página especial para información. También se pueden informar aquí en Facebook, pero si se va a la página de nuestra página de red, se puede poner su dirección de correo electrónico y podemos mandarle directamente noticias y información para saber cómo estar listo y cómo aprovechar de las nuevas reformas. Entonces, voy a poner el enlace aquí en los comentarios después de terminar este video. Thank you so much for watching and being with us. We hope that this information has been helpful. Gracias, Fernando y Janet. Esta información espero que haya sido de ayuda para la comunidad. Y si usted si usted ha aprendido algo aquí, recomiendo compartirlo con los demás, porque queremos compartir esta información para que todos tengan buena información. Please consider sharing this video if it's been helpful to you, if it's been informative. We want to make sure that everyone has access to helpful and clear information about the US Citizenship Act 2021. So just as a recap, there's been nothing passed yet. There's no new laws yet, but it is moving forward, and it's quickly moving forward through Congress. We know that quickly has a different definition when it comes to government, but we are excited to see the movement that has happened just in the last month. So please be watching here, and we will be sure to bring you more information. Again, visit our website. I'll put the link down in the comments below, and you can put in your email address, and we will be able to communicate directly with you. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Gracias, Marisela, por estar con nosotros. Esperamos verlos muy pronto con más buenas noticias, y vamos a estar aquí para ayudar y para servir. Entonces, mándanos mensaje o llámanos 541-653-8899. Give us a call, 541-653-8899. We'd be happy to help you and get started in a relationship with you so that you are ready to go when immigration reform hits. So thanks again for joining us, and we will talk to you soon. Gracias por estar con nosotros, y vamos a estar aquí muy pronto. Gracias. Hasta luego.